distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I think it was proved to you that we, who work for the United Nations, are willing to get up early in the morning. And last night at the meeting, Dr. Charles Mayo, who is the new president, after Mr. Langton had told him how early we'd all been up that morning, said, "I got up at 5 to milk the cows." So you see, we can get up early. I want to begin by saying something which I think should be said this evening, and that is that I have never seen a more beautiful display of United Nations flags than those which are here tonight. I understand they were made by some women's groups in Mitchell, and I can only congratulate them because they are beautifully done. Now, I read just before I came over here this evening a very kind editorial welcoming me personally. But the tone of the editorial, and I understand it's not unusual, was that, after all, I was going to talk to you about something which most of you really didn't believe in, didn't think that it had proved useful. Now, I did not come to talk to you about a dead duck. I came to talk to you about something which I think is very much alive. It needs, however, the support of the people of the United States. Now, I said the people because the Charter begins, "We the peoples." It doesn't say "we the governments," it says "we the peoples." And for that reason, each and every one of us has a responsibility. Now, it's quite possible that a great many among our people in the United States, and even perhaps in some other countries, have watched the United Nations and felt that the main objective, the objective of having a peaceful world, had not been achieved. And I think a great many of us indulged ourselves in wishful thinking. We forgot that for generations and centuries, men had always resorted to force in the final settlement of difficulties that seemed to be unable to find a solution in any other way. And then, because we'd just been through a very terrible war, we longed for peace. And wishfully thinking, we thought, oh, we signed the Charter and our senators ratified the Charter. Now we will have peace. We forgot that all we had done was to set up machinery through which the peoples of the world could work for peace. But the work remained to be done. And you and I and the peoples of other nations had to do it together. Now, in setting up the Charter, it was felt that the great nations, the 5 great powers, would have to cooperate in order to achieve peace. And very soon after that Charter was written, we found that the Soviet Union was not going to cooperate. And the greatest difficulty arose between the Soviet Union and the United States on the control of atomic energy. We felt that without inspection, there would be no safety. And they felt that they did not want to have international inspection. They have a great objection to having anybody know what goes on inside the Soviet Union. And so it didn't destroy the United Nations, but it slowed certain things that we had hoped would happen very much more quickly. But some things went on all the time. And those are the things we hear the least about. Because they not only, in setting up this machinery, set up a General Assembly to meet once a year with delegates from every one of the member nations, 60 nations now, 10 delegates every autumn, 5 delegates and 5 alternates from every nation that is a member. They meet for very nearly 3 months, fools. Sometimes they have an extra special session at another time, but every year they meet for that session. And in addition to that, there are the council meetings, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council. The Economic and Social Council deals with humanitarian and cultural and economic questions. The Trusteeship Council deals with the parts of the world that are not ready to govern themselves. But constantly, the Security Council meets. Now, the Security Council was designed to discuss questions when they reached a boiling point and might cause war. And that was the only group that was given a veto. The 5 great nations, because they were supposed to work together, were given a veto. And we found that one nation, the Soviet Union, used that veto when there was no real reason for using it, for its own purposes, and we had to get around that. And so a resolution was passed called the Uniting for Peace Resolution. And that resolution said that when a question was no longer before the Security Council, if a nation wanted to bring it up, they could do so in the General Assembly. So you see, the way to use the Charter is evolving. And now, if anyone likes to bring up, thinks it important enough, they can bring up any question in the General Assembly where there is no veto. No nation has a veto in the General Assembly. And there it takes a 2/3 vote for an important question and a majority vote for a question that is not considered important. So you see, slowly the Charter is finding ways. Under the Charter, the people are finding ways to work. Now, the United Nations cannot enforce peace because part of the first ideas could never be carried out. They intended originally that there should be joint force set up in the United Nations. But because the United States and the Soviet Union couldn't agree on the control of the greatest weapon, there never could be set up joint force. And so we saw for the first time in Korea an effort made for collective security, but on a voluntary basis. And it's never as good when things are on a voluntary basis. But even then, it was a very great step forward, because a number of nations did voluntarily come together, and they stopped aggression, and they stopped the spread of communism in Asia. And I think unless that has happened, we might by this time see a completely communized Asia. So it was a very great achievement. But all the time there was a great deal of activity going on that had been set up, and of which we hear very little. Those were the specialized agencies which were to work all the time bring greater understanding among people and to prove that working together, people could achieve results. And if you go about the world, you see the results of the work of those specialized agencies. Now, we had a telegram tonight from the Deputy Administrator of Point 4 in India, and I imagine that he came from here, or he wouldn't have sent a telegram. Well, now, I hope sometime he comes and tells you something about what those specialized agencies and our own agencies and the Colombo Plan and the Ford Foundation are doing in India today. First of all, you ought to know what conditions are in India, because it's very difficult for us to imagine something which we've never seen. But perhaps you can have a faint idea of what it's like there if I tell you that 80% of the people of India live in villages. Now, they're not like any villages you know in this country. It's a very different kind of village. But the people have great dignity. And if you meet with the elders of the village, there's one thing that strikes you. They're mostly older men, but they're very, very thin. Because for centuries, the people of India have been hungry. Wheat in India, in the great part of India, grows 1 foot high. The land is mined land. If they can't get water, their crops fail, and they have a famine. A very interesting thing happened to me. You will remember that we voted to send some wheat to India because they had a famine. And you will remember that after we voted to send that wheat, the question came up of how we were going to pay for transportation. And that was argued in our Congress for 6 months. And the wheat stayed here during those 6 months. The Soviet Union sent a very small amount of wheat, but it sent it immediately. And I think they earned, probably because it came so quickly, more gratitude than we did for our much greater gift and loan. Now, what do the people of India think? I got there a good deal later, but I happened to be near an area where for 2 years they'd had a famine. For 2 years, the people around Madras had been without rain. The monsoon failed. And therefore, those people had lived on a government ration. And a government ration in India is 2 tablespoons of cereal a day. And you try to do a good day's work on 2 tablespoons of cereal. It's not exactly filling. And the result is that those people died. They died in the streets, the children, the old people, and even the strong people were more susceptible to disease of all kinds. And so when I got there, they said an interesting thing. They didn't ask me why our government hadn't done something different. What they asked me was, did not your people know that our people were dying in the streets? No, I said, our people didn't know. Our people are a generous people. Our people wanted you to have help. But you see, our people don't live in a country where always somewhere there is famine. And it's difficult for them to visualize what happens. And so when the argument as to how we would pay for transportation went on, our representatives were right, they were going to spend our money. And they were going to be very careful how they spent it, because if we didn't approve when they came back, we wouldn't re-elect them. And so they weren't going to spend our money in a way we didn't like. But in India, they didn't think that our representatives were the only ones concerned. In India, they thought that we lived in a republic with representative government, and that the representatives represented the people. So their question was, did not your people know? And when I said, no, they didn't, then they said, but could not your people have found out? You have the best communications in the world. You have more magazines and newspapers and ways of knowing than any other country in the world. Could not your people have found out? The answer, of course, is we could have found out. But we weren't really too much interested. And yet, there is a real fight to be fought in India. Because if you had 80% of your people hungry, do you think they'd be completely satisfied with their form of government? Now, Prime Minister Nehru wants a democratic government, a government in which the people take part. And he's done a magnificent job of getting them to take the first step. But remember, only 10% of the people in India can read and write. Now, what he did was to cover India before the first vote. And he talked in person to groups of people, and it's estimated that those groups had 30 million people in them. And he brought in 66% of the Indian people to their first vote. Now, that's a great achievement. And he didn't tell them, please come in and vote for the Congress Party. I'm the head of the Congress Party. No, what he told them was, the first thing you must do if you are going to govern yourselves is to vote. That's the very first obligation. And if you have to go 3 days through the jungle, you still have to do it, because it's the first obligation. And people came 3 days through tiger-infested jungles. And when they came, the people at the polls said, what party do you want to vote for? Because they voted with colored sticks. And each colored stick represented a party. And the people told me that frequently the answer would be, we don't know anything about parties. Nehru told us that we had to vote if we wanted to govern ourselves. We want Nehru's box. Well, he did his job well. People who worshipped Babylonian gods came 3 days' trek across the desert, blowing little flutes, and when they arrived, they said to the people at the polls, we have come to worship the god vote. But we voted. And that was the first step towards representative government. But always remember that the communists are making promises in India, and when people are hungry, those promises are very alluring. They don't have to produce. We produce because we are an open country and anyone can come and see what happens here. And we do things there. And our people go there to do those things. But the communists' first promise is a very clever one. We believe that all men are brothers. Join with us because of that belief. And the first question you get in any part of Asia in a press conference is, how do you treat your minorities in the United States? So that's a good and a very clever promise. We believe that all men are brothers, and the second one is just as clever. We cannot promise you that if you join with us, you will have enough to eat immediately. But since we believe that all men are brothers, we will see that everybody shares and shares alike. Now, if you've lived in a country where 80% of the people lived in villages and were hungry, and a little tiny group on top had a great deal, and the people in the cities struggled because there isn't much industry and it's poorly paid. And you probably would think that that was an alluring promise. And against that, we have to win. If India, which is today, now that China is gone, the most important country, if India is going to be with us, with the free people of the world, and not with the slave people of the world. Now, of course, they don't know that they would be joining the slave people because those promises sound very good. We know they're not truthful promises, but they don't know because they haven't had much opportunity. Nehru tells them, Mrs. Candice tells them, a few of their top people. But it's very hard to reach all the people of India, 360 million people. Sometimes I thought I would suffocate in the crowd. And I know very well why they don't shake hands the way we do. I used their form of greeting for the first time in Bombay because when they said to me, will you come out and greet the people, I looked out on the balcony and I thought, heavens, I never saw so many people in my life. There just seemed to be a sea of people. And I thought, what do? I can't possibly ever hope to shake hands. And I remembered the Indian gesture of welcome. They always say how to do by putting their hands together, bowing their heads. And I started then and there to do just that because there was no hope that you could really shake hands or that you could keep your own customs. And that seemed to be a very wise thing to have done. And I think the reason was that it gave them the feeling that I was willing to take something from them. And that's something that if you watch what the specialized agencies do, you will soon learn. Through the specialized agencies, we both learn and give. And it's done by the United Nations, you see, so that nobody feels beholden, because it's a joint undertaking. And you frequently get a specialist from the very country you're helping who will go with you somewhere else and give the knowledge that he has gained. And that is a very good thing. You see, we in the United States, because we came through World War II with a greater productive capacity than we went into it, and no other nation that took part in World War II had that good fortune, we have been able to give. But it's very bitter to people, just as it is to individuals, to feel that they must always take and never give. And so that's one reason why the United Nations is so valuable. There people come together and work together. The World Health Organization, for instance, sends out teams of people. FAO, Food and Agriculture, sends out teams to work on problems. Now, even to us, of the things that food and agriculture is doing is very important. For the first time, they are surveying the world's food supply. Now, I have an idea that some of the farm organizations and some other organizations in this part of the country and in the West have been helping in Korea. Now, whether you're doing it through FAO or whether you're doing it directly, I don't remember now. But I do remember seeing what a remarkably good job was being done by sending stock, sending better seed. And I know how valuable that can be, because when I was in Burma and Indonesia, there they told me how really remarkable the aid of FAO had been. Their rice is life. And they said that they had through FAO better plants, better methods, and in that way they had actually been able to send rice to countries that needed it. So never forget that there is all the time going on work throughout the world which is drawing people together, and that is one of the things that we can count on the United Nations to be doing all the time, even when we feel that the political side is not working out as well as we might wish. Now, I think that I'm off the air. Is that right? Can I go on a few minutes, or do you want me to stop? Well, I want to say just one more thing to you. All of us, all over the world, all the peoples of the world would like to see a peaceful world. But you can't expect to have a peaceful world without working for it, and I think you work for it a long time, because as you settle a difficulty in one area, there's going to be a difficulty somewhere else. You know, even in our own families, even in our own communities, we have differences of opinion amongst ourselves. So now you bring together the people of 60 nations, and you have to consider the different backgrounds, the different degrees of development, the different religions. And you soon realize that there are going to be a great many differences. And they're not going to be settled in a short time. And we're probably going to live in a certain amount of uncertainty. But I always like to remind people that we did have the stamina to live through a good deal of uncertainty in this nation. I don't think George Washington ever knew exactly how this country was going to develop. He advised us, if you remember, to keep free of foreign entanglement and